So just a week ago, Nigel Pearson was appointed as the Bristol City manager, and today I'm joined by Matt Withers, Bristol City fan, yet again to really review the last week, and what a week it's been, hasn't it, Matt?
Yeah, hi Ben. A bit of a whirlwind in full of emotions, but yeah, it's been positive for a change, mate, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So today we're just gonna sort of review the last three games for Bristol City, Nigel Pearson's first three in charge. So let's cast our minds back to last week. Then we travelled up to the Riverside, and when the full time whistle went at Middlesbrough, what were your full time thoughts after that brilliant win?
Yeah, it was. I mean, what a cracking start, wasn't it? To get the early goals like we did. We had to weather a storm in the second half, but you expect that from a Neil Warnock side, and you also expect that when you're the away side. But even though they kind of scored with a little bit of time left to go, I still felt very confident.
Comfortable, yeah.
Yeah, and it's not clear just how much Nigel Pearson had to do with any of that. He certainly wouldn't have been on the coaching side of things, but he obviously spoke to the players before the game at the hotel, and then I believe he spoke to them at half time, and it had an impact. And I suppose, Ben, at any level of sport, confidence is massive. Um, and the team just seemed to have confidence and growing confidence throughout the game. Of course, goals change games, and the goals that we scored were good goals. But yeah, I think his influence was kind of clear to see in just the work rate of some of those players who, let's be fair about it, for a few weeks before, and if you look back to the Barnsley game, have been shocking.
Yeah, definitely. I had a stat now that I just looked up before we started filming, and it's the first three games before Nigel Pearson came in. That was obviously Watford, Reading, and Barnsley. We conceded 9, scored none, shot 10. And then the first three, which is Borough, Swansea, and Bournemouth, we've scored 7, conceded 4, and had 22 shots. So he's definitely made a difference to the players, hasn't he?
100%. And just from watching it, Ben, I mean, I know you'll have watched it with your dad and stuff. It's the games. A lot of the games that we've watched this season, you've kind of not been that bothered about, and it's been pretty dull to watch. And we've seen some decent football in those three games. I'm sure Nigel Pearson would want to tighten us up defensively. And we'll go on to talk about last night's game. But yeah, it's been far more entertaining to watch. Some of the football we've been playing has been really good to see, and as I say, the work rate from a lot of the players and the way that they seem to be playing with a smile on their face, you can see that. So he's definitely made a difference.
Yeah, it's crazy to see the difference from obviously that Barnsley game, and then we appoint Nigel Pearson. 2 days later, we go and put a performance out at the Riverside against a team that is obviously managed by Neil Warnock, who can be frustrating at times. And it was
Hmm.
definitely it was definitely a changed squad. It looked like a completely different squad, didn't it?
It did, and I know Dean Holden before, and even Nigel Pearson. I don't want to talk about injuries, but make no mistake, the injuries that we've got means that you're not able to field a strong bench. We've got young lads who, we've not really seen any of the young lads coming onto the pitch, so they're really there for numbers and their experience, I guess. But it's just the way that we seem to be going about our business now. Nigel Pearson's obviously done it in the game. I'm not doing a discredit to Claudio Ranieri, but Nigel Pearson's team were really the team in the main that won the Premier League for Leicester. So as a player, I think you probably do sit up a little bit and you do listen. And some of the footage that we've seen, although I think he's mellowed slightly, he's not someone you want to get on the wrong side of. And when he talks, I'm sure that the players want to listen. And you can see that from the improved performances that we've seen in Casey Palmer, Naki Wells, to name just a couple.
Yeah, we're gonna go on to that now. Actually, they're over the three games, particularly Middlesbrough and Swansea. There's two players that really stood out for me, and they were Casey Palmer and Naki Wells. How good have
Yeah,
they been under Nigel Pearson?
brilliant. I mean, I'm a massive Casey Palmer fan, and Naki Wells come to that. But Casey, we know, every City fan knows his ability on the ball. Has he done it enough when he's been given an opportunity? No. But has he then been given enough opportunity? No. But the Swansea game, yes, although I was frustrated with the handball, he came out afterwards and kind of admitted that it was. But he really pulled his socks up, really got in the game. The goal obviously helped him individually, but it's again his work rate. He's putting in a shift, and Naki Wells, he scored a great goal at Middlesbrough, worked really really well with Famara. Swansea played a slightly different role at times as well, but again, did really really well. And similarly, last night against Bournemouth, he ended up playing that sort of wide role because we went with a 5 and a 1 up sort of top. And he was making tackles, Ben, in his own penalty area, and that's in some ways, I don't want to see that from Naki Wells because he is a striker who scores you goals. But it shows again that he's putting the work in and he seemed to be enjoying it as well. Whereas we've quite often commented that he's not looked a happy player. So yeah, both of those I think have really contributed to the success, and will only get better. Casey Palmer, the more games he plays, the better he's going to get. He was a bit unlucky last night with one shot, a couple of his passes just slightly under hit. And if they had been a little bit more on it, then we would have had a number of opportunities to go through. So, yeah, I think both have got big futures for the rest of this season. And hopefully, Nigel Pearson stays and they're part of his plans for next season.
Funny enough, you talk about Naki Wells yesterday, obviously against Bournemouth. I saw that exact same thing. It was, I think it might have been in either the 30th or the 60th minute, one of those. And he was putting pressure on Bournemouth's backline, the top striker up there, and then 30 seconds later he was back winning the ball back and then doing that up and again. We'll move on to the Swansea game now then, which again was another brilliant performance. We'll talk about the first half because it was definitely a game of two halves, wasn't it? But how good was Dan Bentley in that game?
Superb. I sort of wrote about it in the live column that it was just an outstanding performance. His all-round game, his distribution, but the saves that he made, there were a couple of one point blank save that he made from Conor Hourihane, that he sort of saved the first one and then had to get up and push it across. Yeah, and the core strength that you must have to be able to do that. If we stop, in fact, carry on to the rest of the season, unless somebody goes on a run where they score 30 goals in the last 12 games, no one's going to beat Dan Bentley to player of the year for us, because he's almost single-handedly meant that we're not in more relegation trouble than perhaps we have been. Hopefully we're one or two wins away now from absolutely securing safety. But Dan Bent is a huge part of that. I think he's been absolutely fabulous. I don't think there's been a better goalkeeper in the Championship this season.
Definitely. And even when he made that mistake yesterday, I turned over to my dad and just said he's won us countless games this season. So it was definitely he has, hasn't he?
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
And going into that second half, then obviously the first half was all backs against the wall, really, wasn't it? And I don't know how it was 0-0 at half time, but I guess a bit of that is Nigel Pearson.
What was really interesting, Ben, after the game was Nigel Pearson's comment around he was so impressed with our desire to keep the ball out of the net. And you could see that to a man, every player that was on there showed that determination. Nigel Pearson made the right choice in terms of subbing Riley Taylor when he did. I don't think Riley was having a bad game. It was just obviously he was on a tightrope, having been booked, making a challenge where Swansea players surrounded the referee looking to get a second yellow. So that was a big call. But yeah, it was just a really good defensive performance in the first half. And your keeper is in there to make saves, but you don't expect him to have to make the kind of worldies that he did. But so important to have kept it at 0-0 as half time. And then obviously the second half, we go behind, but the attitude was absolutely spot on and we turned it around. And I don't think any City fan can deservedly say on the 90 minutes we were the better side and we comfortably deserved the win, because we didn't. But on the second half performance, we deserved to win the second half.
Definitely.
And therefore, we deserved to win the game because we scored the goals, didn't we? So, yeah.
Definitely. First thing from that is the defensive efforts in that first half. As I said, got Canas, Viner, Towler, Bentley. They were all brilliant, weren't they? And then going on to that second half, as you said there, score goals, win games. And do you think if Lee Johnson or Dean Holden was in that position, we would have gone on to score those goals and win that game?
Hard to say. I would say with certainly Lee Johnson and possibly Dean Holden, both. If we'd gone on to take the 2-1 lead as we did, I don't see either of them would have made the Semenyo change. I think they would have gone defensive. I think you would have seen Taylor Moore coming on.
Moore, yeah.
We'd have taken a striker off. So that was pleasing to see. So yeah, I don't think we're winning that particular game with those players, with the way that Lee Johnson or Dean Holden would set up. I don't think we're winning that one 3-1. I think they would have made a change. So that was good to see. And it was good to see the way that Nigel Pearson was sort of on the sidelines and talking to his players. As I say, he absolutely commands respect, and the players are buying into it. And you're talking about, probably with COVID and the turnaround of games, he's probably only had 4 or 5 training sessions. With media work that he's been able to do, that's probably only a few hours that he's been able to spend them. So it's an exciting prospect to think he signs, he gets his own players in, because there will be a big turnover of players, I think, in the summer. And then we hopefully kick on next season and we see what a Nigel Pearson team really looks like.
Yeah, definitely. And you said there the management sort of thing. I'm pretty sure you said on the 3 peeps after that game. It was good to see all 3 of them barking orders out from the sidelines.
Yeah, it was. I don't hide from the fact I did think that it would have been better to have had a clean sweep, and sort of let Paul Simpson and Keith Downing go. But both of them were far more engaged in the Middlesbrough game and the Swansea game than I've seen them, in all their time with Dean Holden. Seemed to be having more of a say on what was going on as well. Both of them, in the past, Keith Downing is seemingly sat up in the stands and looked at the shaping things, whereas he's now been on the touchline. There's a counter argument for it, Ben, that and some of the guys have sort of said on the pod that, is it too many voices then?
Yeah.
And can that cause issues? Again, I'm sure Nigel Pearson is the one who he says what goes.
Yeah.
And he's happy to let Paul Simpson say what he's saying, or Keith Downing say what he's saying. But yeah, I've actually been suitably impressed with both of those two, looking at the way that they're handling themselves now on the touchline. So, we don't know the dynamics of what it was like with Dean Holden, and we don't know what the dynamics are now with Nigel Pearson. It may be he gets to the end of the season. I don't know what their contract stage is like, but he might want to then bring in his own people. You just don't know. But certainly at the moment, the 3 of them do seem to be working well together.
Yeah, talking about the management side of things, do you think if Nigel Pearson does hopefully he does sign a long-term deal in the summer, do you think he'll do a clean sweep of the backroom staff and possibly even get rid of a few players and get in a few players as well?
I think there'll definitely be a turnover of players. It's everything I'm listening to from Nigel Pearson seems that he does see this as a longer term project.
Yeah.
I understand the initial 6-month kind of deal, the rest of the season. Probably not 6 months, it's less than that. But I kind of got that. But now that we're seeing how he works, again, we don't know what those discussions were. He might have said, I'm happy for the end of the season and let's take stock then. Everything I've seen so far, I really, really hope that he does stay on. I don't know from a coaching point of view, a lot of times when managers move, they do bring their own people in. You look at Steve Cottrell recently going to Shrewsbury. Obviously, he's taken Aaron Wilbraham in with him.
Yep.
Nigel Pearson may want to do the same as that. I don't know necessarily that the coaching team that he's predominantly worked with would come, because Craig Shakespeare's a guy that he's worked with a lot and did a lot with at Leicester. He's at Aston Villa now. Why would you want to leave a Premier League club? I don't know. Whether that's likely. Mike Stowell's the sort of, I don't know whether he is truly the assistant at Leicester City, but he's obviously very involved there. He's certainly the goalkeeping coach, albeit that he does live in Bristol. But I don't know whether he would want to change, because again, he's at a Premier League club. So you just don't know. I mean, there may be players that he's worked with, the likes of, I don't know, someone like Wes Morgan, I don't know what his situation is, but he might have gone into coaching. So you just don't know. But as long as they're getting on and as long as we're seeing an improvement on the pitch, I'm not overly bothered who's alongside him. It's that main figurehead that is the key thing. Certainly in terms of players, I think we've got, I'm sure I read somewhere that we'll only have something like 15 professional players on contract at the end of the season. So you imagine hopefully some of those will sign new deals. But just looking at the likes of Famara Diédhiou, I don't know whether, I don't know why he wouldn't have signed already. So I think he may go. Liam Walsh, who knows? We just don't know that situation. I think Andy Vyman's got a year left, but that will be an interesting one. So there are a lot of Nathan Baker, I think, is out of contract. There are a lot of players that are out of contract, and you don't know. Who's to say that we're not going to get a Prem club come in for Dan Bentley? Because certainly, he's shown he can perform at the very highest level. So you really just don't know. I think there will be a big turnover of players. I'd like to see us get in a stronger physicality within the side, because I think that's something we've desperately missed. And yeah, I'm sure COVID's going to have such an impact on contracts and terms and things like that. So it's going to be an interesting summer. I think the result last night puts any kind of playoff hopes to bed. And really, Ben, although I would always take a chance of promotion because you never know when it would come along, we're not anywhere near good enough to be in the Premier League. So, and maybe it just extends the agony a little bit longer if you're still involved in it. So I don't know. It'd be the big thing for me is I'm desperate that Nigel Pearson signs that new contract, because all of the good sort of feelings in. I think Bristol City need to be very careful with season ticket sales about to come up at some point in the next month or two, I'm sure. There will be a lot of fans that don't renew season tickets if Nigel Pearson hasn't signed a longer term deal. If he has, then I think there will be a lot of people that will sign will buy a season ticket. But we've all spent an awful lot of time watching football on TV now, on Robin's TV, doing other things as well. And some fans might not go back unless you get that name and they can see we're starting to build something with him. So
improvement,
exactly.
So then, if you're Mark Ashton, Nigel Pearson in the summer, what positions the first you're looking to upgrade ahead of the new season?
Again, really does depend on the contracts and which players are going to stay. I'm certainly I would be looking at certainly a right back. From a central defensive point of view, it very much depends on the likes of Alfie Mawson. Is there anything in place that he may come back? Midfield will very much depend again on Liam Walsh, as I've said. Joe Williams' injury, is he able to then come back and he sort of features? The young guys that have come in, they're going to have more experience. So the likes of Tyreek, Han Noah, and then some of the young lads that have been on the bench, they're going to have another 6 months in pre-season and show them what they're capable of doing. Famara's a big call. If we lose Famara, then you're certainly looking at another striker. I don't know if Chris Martin will fit what Nigel Pearson wants to do. I think Nigel Pearson was in charge of him when he was at Derby, and he let him go out on loan. So it may be, and some managers have that. There are some players that managers that just don't fancy. So that will be an interesting one. So probably at least one striker, maybe two. And as I say, getting some more physical presence in the middle of the pitch for me.
Yeah, so before we go on to the Bournemouth game last night, there's one more thing I want to talk about the Swansea game. That was at full time when Nigel Pearson called all the players in for a huddle, and we saw, I think it was Zach Viner in a pre-match press conference, or one of the players in an interview post-match said that wasn't planned or anything, he just called over. What were your thoughts when you saw that all around Twitter and Instagram and stuff like that?
Loved it. I changed my Facebook profile picture to it. Absolutely loved it. It's the first time I can. No, that's not true. I was going to say it's the first time since Steve Cotterill days where I could remember that kind of camaraderie between the players. But we did have that under Lee Johnson as well. Certainly,
Yeah,
when
we
you think of
definitely did.
the cup
Yeah,
run that we did. But it was
2017.
but it was great to see. It was great to see. I don't know if you saw the little clip of him and Famara sort of pushing each other. There was an article that I read from Gregor, I think, that the gilet that Nigel Pearson had on was Taylor
Yeah, and his
Moore's, I think.
phone.
Yeah, and Andy
That was
Vyman sort of
brilliant.
messaged,
Yeah,
and again, it's those
get
sort of
in.
things that it endears. And as a fan, I want to see my manager living and breathing it on the sidelines, and getting the players wanting to run through brick walls for him. The greatest component of that at the moment is Jurgen Klopp. Jurgen Klopp's players would do absolutely anything for him. Similarly, probably with Pep as well. And I'm not comparing Nigel Pearson to either of those two, but I'm just saying it's
Not yet.
great when you've got a man. Yeah, not yet. It's great when you've got a manager who gets his players that are like that. And watching last night, Casey Palmer coming off on, I don't know, about 80 minutes. He had a big hug from Nigel Pearson, and that's gonna make you feel better about yourself, better about your performance. You are going to want to do and improve for this manager. So yeah, it was a really nice thing to see, Ben. I thought.
Yeah, it definitely was brilliant to see after what was a brilliant result
Great result.
away at Swansea, and it was brilliant to see that at full time after, and it just made, I think, a lot of the Bristol City fans a lot happier and a lot just a lot happier after a brilliant performance as well. So let's move on to last night. Obviously, it was a disappointing result, but definitely seeing a lot of improvements from like Reading and Barnsley a few weeks back.
But we didn't have any shots or any corners or any threat, did we, in those games? So we're certainly seeing that. I would say that the start of the game, the first 10, 15 minutes, Bournemouth gave us the runaround. I don't think we put our foot on the ball really. And then Dan Bentley again had to make a couple of really, really good saves. There was one from, I think it was Dan Juma, that he tipped sort of wide round the post. And that was a great save. Really sort of kept us in it. Lloyd Kelly, I thought, looked particularly impressive for Bournemouth. And that was great to see because he is a Bristol City Academy player. So, I've got no issue with that. But after that 15 minutes, we then really got on the front foot. Tyreek got involved, had a good shot. Yeah,
yesterday.
Really good shot. He was my man of the match, Tyreek. And he had a really good shot. Famara maybe could have taken it first time with the sort of the parried save. And then Casey Palmer had a good shot. And we really started to grow into the game and play some really good football. There was some good sort of play between the players, and we opened Bournemouth up. And then obviously we scored a really good goal. And actually, I thought at that stage we could really go on, and then unfortunately we conceded the goal that we did right on halftime, and that just completely knocked the stuffing out of them. And the second half wasn't anywhere near that level from both teams, to be fair. I don't think Bournemouth did a huge amount in the second half.
No, not at all.
But yeah, I don't even know if we had a shot in the second half on target. So that's a slight concern. But as Nigel Pearson said afterwards, you couldn't fault the players for their efforts. Maybe, well, no, not maybe, definitely, the quality just wasn't there. As I talked about Casey earlier on, a number of passes he got in really good positions, played the right pass, but just underhit it. And so, the defender was able to cut it out. But like you said, Ben, there were a lot more positives in last night's game than we've seen. And if you'd have said to me a week ago, I'll give you 6 points, I would have taken those 6 points. Yeah, I'd have taken those 6 points any which way they came. So the fact we won 2 away, lost it at home, maybe if I was being greedy, I'd have preferred one of those wins to have been at home, because I think that's 5 defeats in a row now at home.
Yeah, it's not been brilliant home form at the moment.
Yeah, so we need to address that.
Yeah, as you said there, before Nigel Pearson came in, I was sadly backing us to get 0 points out of those 3 games, and to get 6, especially 3-1 wins at like Borough and Neil Warnock and Swansea as well. I think before that they hadn't lost at home in 2021, or they've lost once.
I think they've only lost once to Huddersfield in the league. Yeah, I don't know whether that was this year or last year, but yeah, it's this season they've only lost once, and I think they only conceded 4 goals, 7 goals, something like that.
Yeah, so they were on very good form coming into it, so it's brilliant. Was really brilliant to see. And another player that did really stand out yesterday, and you just mentioned him as well, Tyreek Backinson. He was brilliant yesterday, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. I thought the second half against Swansea, he was superb as well. But last night, he not only was he breaking the play up and sort of getting in there and challenging. Going forward, I thought he was excellent. He was breaking the lines. He had a couple of really good shots, scored obviously a good goal, but was linking well. And we've now got midfielders in the like of Tyreek and Adam Nash. They do break the lines and do go sort of past the ball. And that's what you need. You know, Casey Palmer needs runners to be able to play the ball in. But I thought it was a really solid performance. He did tire. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah,
Probably
definitely.
70 minutes. You know, maybe he'd run his course. But it was a mature performance. I think if we can build him up a little bit more, get a little bit more strength to him, get a little bit more energy into him, and that's going to come playing more games, playing more 90 minutes. But we've got a hell of a player on our hands there. So yeah, we've got to look after him.
Definitely. Do you see after this week that could be is our midfield three heading into next season with Adam Nash, Backinson and Palmer? Or do you think Pearson will come back in? What are you thinking about that?
I think from a midfield point of view, Joe Williams will definitely come in. I liked the brief cameo that we've seen of him.
The game.
I'm a massive, exactly. I'm a massive Liam Walsh fan. I've always been a Liam Walsh fan.
Yeah, he was brilliant at Coventry, wasn't he? The last time
we
saw him.
Did really well, but I watched a lot of I say a lot of the games. He didn't play that many for us, but I remember a number of games where I just like the way he plays the game. He's always forward thinking. And the confidence, the shame is the confidence he picked up from the Coventry loan, we're not going to benefit from that this season, it looks like. I was slightly concerned that there was an under-23 game either yesterday or the day before, and he didn't feature. And I don't know if that's because there are any kind of reoccurrence following his sort of 23, 60 minutes last week. But yeah, I don't know. I'm fearful, Ben. I don't think Liam Walsh is going to sign a new contract because, again, nothing.
Wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, nothing's out there. So again, you just don't know. But I would certainly see Tyreek, Adam, Casey. Will definitely have a role to play as well. But we don't know if Nigel Pearson stays. He may have his own ideas of the sort of players he wants in the middle of the field.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't be surprised if Liam Walsh does go out to another one of those, like your Peterboroughs, your Portsmouths, one of them. And also wouldn't be surprised if in the summer Nigel Pearson does bring in another top midfield player that comes in and features next season, like one of Adam Nash or Backinson or Palmer does get dropped.
If we'd have been talking in the summer, or whenever it was, maybe after the summer, but about this season, we wouldn't have picked Tyreek coming into the team at all.
No.
We knew he was there at the club because he'd been on loan stuff, but we wouldn't have thought he would feature very much.
He was brilliant at the start of the season, wasn't he? And then
superb.
He's come back and he's still absolutely brilliant.
We don't know where Jay De Silva is in his recovery. We don't know where George Nurse or Cam Pring will feature. So there are a number of options going forward, but so much, as I said, will depend on finances, COVID, and what happens from that point of view.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure we've got a lot of players coming back. Obviously, a few on the grass as well that we saw in press conferences.
We keep hearing whatever that means.
Yeah, keep hearing, but all we know, it could be just walking out on the grass.
Well, it's interesting because you probably saw the Andy Weimann video.
Yeah.
And it's you look at it and you thought, oh right, he's back training, he's running. Maybe not
another month until he's back, even on the bench.
He's not going to play the season. He said himself. He said himself he's not likely to make the rest of the season. So, we have to be a little bit apprehensive, I guess, with when you see the videos of these players returning.
Yeah.
But I would certainly expect the likes of Callum O'Dowda, Nathan Baker to be available within the coming weeks.
We saw Baker and Callum O'Dowda back, didn't we? Yeah. So finally, then talking about the upcoming few matches and over the next few weeks. I've got the fixtures here then, and we'll just talk through a few of them. Kicking off of March, you've got QPR, Birmingham, Blackburn and Rotherham. Are you confident heading into them? You're obviously the only team, I believe, now until the end of the season is Brentford, who are above us in the league. So are you confident heading into the end of the season, last 12 games?
I am on the back of the last week, and even on the back of some of last night's performance. Again, if we can get some more players back so that you've got better options on the bench, and that's not being disrespectful to the lads, and actually some of them I would like to have seen given an opportunity. But yeah, certainly, you look at those 4 games you've just mentioned there, and you'd be disappointed not to be picking up 9 points, possibly even the 12. But we came up against Rotherham, and Rotherham completely bossed us. They were physical. If they put any kind of performance in like that, and if we don't match them, then we'll lose the game because we don't do well against those sort of teams. Blackburn play a bit more football, and we've got a decent record away at Blackburn, so you'd like to think so. QPR, you never know. So I'd be hopeful of 9 points, certainly 6. And in an ideal world, the 12, because as you said, they're 4 winnable games, aren't they?
Definitely.
So yeah,
we've got winnable games for the rest of the season. We've got Stoke, that'll be tough, but winnable. Coventry, Forest, Wednesday, Wickham, Luton, Millwall, and Brentford. There's a lot of winnable games in there.
There is, in terms of, I guess, where they are now, but when you then throw into the fact that the likes of Rotherham, the likes of Wickham, likes of Coventry may very well be looking for points to save relegation. Then when you're kind of safe and you've got nothing to play for, there are 2 sort of mindsets. You either go out with a kind of freedom, and you can play some sparkling football, or you go out with a little bit of, if we concede, it doesn't really matter. We haven't got to win this game, so I'm not that worried. Hopefully, again, a manager like Nigel Pearson doesn't allow that kind of attitude. And I like to think that players would be playing for their futures for next year. So, yeah, I was worried, Ben, a week ago, 10 days ago. I was worried. I really thought relegation was looming for us. We're not safe yet, but I think we will secure the points needed on the basis of the last 3 games. We will secure the points needed. However, we do have to stop the shots, the crosses coming in, because Middlesbrough and certainly Swansea, we could easily have lost the game. So you've got to be a bit more careful with the way that we're dealing with those kind of attacks and efforts. But yeah, we've got smiles on our faces, Ben, which we haven't had much this season.
Definitely not. A brilliant show of that, where teams have gone, and when Bristol City have been safe and other teams have had to get results. Obviously, that Birmingham game 3 years ago, I think it is now, when they stayed up on the last day of the season at Ashton Gate.
Yeah, Harry Redknapp in charge. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Finally, then, where obviously 12 games left. You obviously said earlier on in the video you think we're only 2 wins off of being safe. Where do you see us finishing come the end of the season? It's just going to be a bang average mid-table finish.
Again, lots of variables with the injuries, with Nigel Pearson. If for example, a Premier League club gets rid of their manager and decides they want to approach Nigel Pearson, who's to say he's going to stay to the end of the season? So there are a lot of variables within that, but all things being equal, the injured players coming back over the next sort of months, 6 weeks, I think we'll probably finish just outside the top 10, maybe not far from where we are now, so maybe 12th.
Yeah, as you said, 11th, 12th. I think promotion is, even the playoffs, has been off the cards for pretty much all the majority of this season, really, hasn't it? And with those 2 wins, I think a few fans got a bit ahead of themselves.
Me included, mate.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie,
because we do get swept away with it, don't we?
Definitely. Yeah. Even like my dad, he's a negative Bristol City fan. He was like, we're only 7 points off the playoffs.
What was it? I'd love to have seen that. Yeah.
Oh, it was. I think it was after the Swansea game. I think it was when I came down and said he's won, because he was watching the rugby. But
right.
But yeah, thanks for joining me again today, Matt.
No, my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me, Ben. I always love doing that.
Yeah, brilliant to talk about Nigel Pearson. We'll definitely make a lot more of these videos over the next few weeks, months, and years as well. Thank you guys all for watching. Hopefully Nigel Pearson can keep this good form up with Bristol City with a win on Saturday against QPR. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one. Come on, you Reds.